This is Speaking of Events, the podcast for event industry leaders. We bring together innovators, strategic rock stars, and visionary creatives to talk all about events, industry trends, and anything in between. And speaking of events, here is your host, Kerri Garbis.
It's fun to meet someone and discover you have a bunch of things in common. Like you both have a lot of experience with events, different sides of events, and still lots in common about events. Or you both have a kid that we just discussed may or may not be trying to kill you with bringing their germs into the house. And you may also discover you very early on in the relationship that you both have really similar names. And today is that guest for me. We have a lot in common. She's fun. She's up for a challenge. She is an event and field marketing aficionado, a veteran marketing professional with over 20 years of working experience, which is shocking because you look great, by the way. And also there's something like we really don't have in common at all and if you knew me a little better, you would also find this laughable, is that she has an addiction to running and I have an addiction to not running. And she is training for her 17th Boston Marathon, which is really impressive. And I am so pleased to have the effervescent guest today, Furnari. Welcome to Speaking of Events.
Hello.
Thank you. Yes.
You brought me up too much there.
Right. No, I didn't. I didn't.
Choose to fill now.
Yes. And if you didn't notice, you have Carrie with Kerri, and that is one of the more exciting.
Right?
Not confusing at all. And one of the more exciting parts, no, actually, it's probably the least exciting part, is that we have the same name spelled different ways. Maybe we'll talk about it later. Okay. Carrie Furnari,
Yes.
What is the one thing you wished more people knew about events?
That they are not as glamorous as they look from the planning perspective. I more early on in my career, when I got to travel and I was going to Vegas and going to Europe and cool places, my friends just thought I lived this life of, luxury, and it was all wining and dining, and little do they know how many blisters I had on my feet from standing on trade show floors for hours upon hours, and crates falling on my head from putting things together, and nights without eating dinner because it's just those little spring rolls when you're at the cocktail parties. They get to see everyone sees the final production, which is, ooh, wow, good see, and the glamour, that is the glamorous side, usually the end result, but all those sleepless nights before, the details going into it that are not so glamorous, I think is kind of the hidden truth behind events. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong, and you sometimes can't plan for it.
Yeah, can you ever plan? Could you ever you could do some pre-disaster planning, right?
Sure. Yeah, you can, but you can't plan for the ones where a pipe bursts in the floor above you and breaks a hole in the ceiling and water starts pouring down at one of your customer events and alarms going off. Those ones, not so much.
And that happened. That really happened.
It did. Yes. Yeah.
And so what do you do in that situation? Are there guests there? Are people there? Do we have attendees?
Yeah, it was a customer appreciation event. And they're all good sports. So it's one of those things where I guess it's great, it's customers, but you have your executives all there, and so they're all taking pictures of this lovely waterfall coming through the ceiling, and the event staff is terrified of me, even though I haven't said anything to them, but they're like afraid to approach me because they think they have to move us. And you have to act calmly. I always say that how I act is how others are gonna act. So it's just maintaining that calm, cool collectiveness, and gotta find a solution. If we had to go to a different event or back to the hotel lobby bar, you make it work. So just working with the staff to how do we remediate this? What is the remediation? And then just relaying back to the guests, like, drinks are still free, go grab another drink. Thank God for the open bar.
Yes, drinks can really be the cure-all for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so some people may like an event production to running a marathon, which you know a little of well, you know 17 times more than I do about running a marathon. So the obvious question to you is, what is your shoe choice when you're on site at an event? Because your feet are important during the marathon. So are you, what are you usually donning when you're walking around?
Not heels. I'm not a power woman who will suffer through. I'll do that at weddings and like maybe some of the evening events, but I've tried to find comfy loafers that are a little bit trendier, but I will often, especially if it's that third, fourth day, I will go for my nicer pair of sneakers, and I'm not ashamed to. I'm not ashamed to go the sneaker route if I have to at all. I mean, I'm in the tech space, so it's pretty, it's usually the t-shirt, sweatshirt audience anyway, which is, fortunate. So I usually am one of the better dressed individuals as it is. But so I get away with the sneaker route, especially when it's, a multi-day event, for sure.
You can
I really want to, as I haven't been able to have the budget yet. I'm hoping one day to where you can get like the custom shoes that are like the custom colors of your company and like the company being like logo on it. So I'm hoping to be able to like pull that off one day for like trade show attendees. Like I know who's staffing the event.
Oh, I love that idea.
Yeah.
And what are some of the other things that running a marathon and running an event have in common?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's definitely different stages. There's, I kind of say the beginning of the marathon, it's fun because you have all the energy, and that's kind of typical with planning an event. It's all right, let's fresh ideas, and you're going, and then the miles go on, and especially for events, you can start 6 months in advance, and sometimes not that other things come about, you're usually working on more than one at a time, so you lose focus a little bit, and that's like the inner miles of a marathon where you're like, why am I doing this? And and trying to pull yourself back into the game, and then it's I'll equate it to miles 17th to 21, and those are usually for me the toughest miles in a marathon. And that's like the final 2 weeks before an event, especially a big one with multiple pieces, and it's those sleepless nights, and you're just everyone cranking from all cylinders to make sure all preparation is there. And then really the last 6 miles of a marathon, it's kind of home stretch at this point, and I break it down as I can run a 10K, I run 6 miles, most average runs during the week. So I try to frame it and forget the other miles. And it's really the same with the event. By that point, you've done all the work, you've kind of done what you can. So what will be, just kind of hope for the best results and hope you can sprint to that finish line.
That is amazing. Everybody who I know who runs says it is a mental game, that it's not. Wow. And that, it is, yeah. And there is something to be said about that with the big show that we put on with events, and it is a mental game too, right? Don't you think?
Absolutely. So totally mental. It's because again, it's not just how the booth looks, but making sure everyone's prepped and knows their piece, and then it's the execution after the event. Not just about the 3 or 4 days you show up somewhere. The event continues on well after, because that's when you're trying to make sure you can go back to the event the following year, with the results. So it's it truly is a marathon, because it just kind of keeps going. Training never really ends.
Yes, that is for sure. And so and looking back, you've had a long career thus far. We're not stopping. And if we think about
daycare bills won't allow me to.
Yes, exactly. Right. We're not ready to retire quite yet. We're going to talk about that next. Yeah. My geeky topic I love to talk about is, of course, disaster stories, and or specifically speaker disaster stories. So what's yours?
Yeah. So I have 2 actually. I did think of another one. So the first one was almost a speaker disaster, and it was more for me. Like 7 years ago, we were sponsoring one of those kind of really expensive C-level events. And it was just gonna be myself there, one sales guy, and then our CTO was going to be flying in because he was doing these speaking presentation, to a curated audience of C-level executives. And the presentation was at the end of the day, and his flight got canceled, delayed. I'll forget the details a little bit there, but it was looking like I was going to have to be the one presenting the presentation. The salesperson was leaving. So I was frantically in between working our little tabletop booth display, trying to look at this presentation he put together, all the notes. And I'm like, oh my gosh, am I gonna be able to pull this off and do it? Fortunately, he arrived. Unfortunately, it was the last session of the day, and I think we only had a couple people in the room. So averted disaster because I didn't have to do my best CTO impression, but kind of one of those bummers as well too, because you're paying a lot for one of these events, and I think he finagled a lot to get there for not really the audience that you were expecting. But more of a bigger one that was, again, kind of diverted, but not. We were hosting our second annual user conference at a previous company, and we got a high-profile executive from the NFL to do our keynote presentation. She'd been part of larger conferences before.
We can bleep it out. We'll bleep it out. Tom, we're bleeping it out.
Yes. They had been part of keynote presentations before that we had seen, and so we thought this would be great. It tied into the topic for our company and theme of the conference. However, they were not able to kind of show up to some of the prep calls we had. We were working through a speaker management company. We thought we had all aligned on the direction, we wanted the conversation to go. The keynote was day 2 of our user conference, and there was a presentation right before preempting theirs. And that presentation ran over, and we were trying to kind of cut the speaker off, but it kind of kept going. And, so we finally got them off stage, and this person was all frazzled as it was because they were delayed. However, and I'll back up, they also gave us a 3-page introduction of themselves. So we,
is that double spaced 3 pages? It might have been
not even, no, I think it was actually single space. So we gave it to our CTO, who was going to be introducing this person, and they assumed that this was great. Like, I will take some of this, but I'm not going to read 3 pages introducing, someone to the stage. Got this person on stage, and they ended up just playing all videos and not really talking and or presenting. And I think because the keynote before had gone over, a lot of people started to get up and leave. And we were trying to push through a mobile app, like, we're going to delay the, the breakout sessions, don't feel like you have to leave. I think a lot of people were just a little bit tired of sitting around, and it didn't end up being that intriguing of a presentation. Well, we got lambasted this person afterwards. They said they almost walked off the stage. They never had people walk out on them before, and they couldn't believe that they weren't introduced the way they were supposed to be introduced with the full 3-page, introduction. We had our share back to say to the speaker company that we work through, our feedback as well too, but it was just one where it, not a full disaster, but just, not as wonderful as we had hoped it would be from all angles.
A lot of this really hurts my soul, just many parts of this story. And first and foremost, the 3-page, not double-spaced introduction, even a 3-page double-spaced introduction is too much. And that's one of my, candidly, pet peeves of reading bios out loud, just reading them, because you can put it in the program, you can put it on the app, whatever. And
exactly.
And speakers in general, I don't care if you are a CFO, CTO, presidential candidate, you have to go with the flow. Things happen. Life happens. And so much about that hurts.
Yeah, part of me kind of wishes they had walked off stage, because that actually would be, I would have a better story to tell, and put in that book that eventually I wrote about, all the disasters and things that have gone wrong in 20 years. They stayed on stage for better or worse, but
right, exactly. So, Kerri, what's going on? What's new in your world? What's the big update over there?
Big updates. So I was part of one of those LinkedIn things you see these days about layoffs. So I was laid off in January as part of a restructuring layoff, but I'm one of those people that thinks everything happens for a reason. And I wasn't with the best fit company for me. So I've been working my network, and I am hopefully close to potentially two offers. So fingers crossed. I've had some final rounds. So yeah, being optimistic, but I want to land with a good company, the right space. So I'm not going to just take anything to take it at this point, in my career too. But
Yeah.
so enjoying, it's given me, the only upside is I've had the time to go for long runs. So
Waiting for that 17th marathon.
by
Yes.
training, that's an upside. Yeah.
Yes. And this is happening a lot these days. People are getting laid off, or yes, people are getting laid off because the world is where it is right now for many reasons. That's a different podcast topic. What do you think from the last couple months? What have you learned from this experience? What do you think in 6 months your takeaways from this time will be? Any insights
absolutely. I was only unemployed one other time many years ago, through an acquisition. The company that acquired us had their own marketing team. I found a job rather quickly. I think the difference this time is the plus and minuses of remote work, where, I kind of didn't limit myself to be looking in just Massachusetts and or really the Boston area. But also, that many more candidates are also then applying. There's kind of those pros, companies letting you be remote. It's great because it's opened my doors to, many other, opportunities. But I found really relying on my network, and I think that's the key part is, you can give yourself, the 24 hours or whatever you need to be down, after you get that letter, email, whatever it is that you're, losing your job. But, just rely on your skills and, knowing what you know how to do. And for me, it was kind of giving that self-talk, like, Kerri, you know what you're doing. You've been doing this for 15, 20 years. I've been recruited into companies, just relying on my skill set, and the power of networks. That's why, relationships is the biggest part of any, job, good, bad, maintaining those relationships with people, forging good ones, because you never know when you will need them, or rely on them. Everyone has been super receptive who I've, reached out to is, let me know how I can help. They may not have a job opportunity for me, but can they, help coach me or make introductions and, use my network. If there's anyone who I'm connected to, reach out to me. So I think people are just, really supportive and willing to help. So not that I was surprised by that, but I've been fortunate to have that.
That's fabulous.
Yes.
And you basically answered my next question, which is, how does an event professional find a new gig? And I think you nailed it, that leverage your network and reach out and continue those relationships. And that, I think that's why it's so important that you maintain it doesn't have to be crazy active ongoing communication, always leaving a positive impression, even if it's for a few moments, so that you can then go to that person and say, hey, could you introduce me to this person? Or I'm looking for a job, or I need support in this department. Absolutely. Yeah. So anything else that if I were coming to you and saying, I need to find a job in the event space, what do I do?
I think, I'm not sure if this is for just event space, but in general, especially now too, I think you need to take it into your own control. And I definitely was more aggressive this time than I have in the past. I would send a resume in and then go on LinkedIn and message the VP of marketing and say, hey, hopefully you got my resume. Well, knowing it wasn't going to them, it was probably going to a recruiter. And I got replies back sometimes right away. But I think, or it's pinging, the recruiter, but they are getting so many applicants that I don't think it hurts now to try to take that advantage, to try to stand out. It shows them, you're eager, you're willing. And there's plenty of times I was getting ghosted and not hearing back after having initial conversations. But just, staying on it, you really got to, own your destiny. I know a little bit. So I think it's okay this day and age to be a little bit bolder and, more aggressive.
Yes.
In a good, friendly way.
Right, in a non-stalker like way.
Sure,
Yes,
yeah.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And don't show up at their house, you know, when or
Right. Oh, okay, great. Good to know. Noted. So if you were able to create your ultimate job, the let's put it out there. Let's put it out in the universe. What would the ultimate
Yes.
role look like to you, for you?
Yeah, ultimate role would be where there's a leadership team that is inspiring. I think they're leading a team that's inspiring. The company mission, I think, is, you know, important about what they are trying to do. Transparency is a big thing to me. But my biggest success as a career is, you know, I've enjoyed is where the leadership team is authentic and they're not these untouchable, you know, execs who you just can't relate to at all. But they're kind of humans and they make the effort to get to know you or relate to you. So I think it kind of starts from the top down for me. And then a place where, you know, they trust me. You know, I think coming off my last roles, the micromanaging aspect doesn't work for me. You know, I want to be hired because they value my skill set and, you know, what I'm doing. So I want to be, you know, a place where they can trust me and have a little latitude to zig and to zag and not always stay in a straight line, because I don't even run in straight lines. I'm, you know, a little over the place. So you know, I need that ability to, you know, be creative and, you know, let me take a chance. And I say fail fast and fail forward. I'm okay with that motto because I think it actually shows, you know, momentum and progress. So a place that kind of allows me to, you know, do that, and around other like-minded individuals who want to succeed. You know, that we spend way more time at our job when you're employed than, you know, anything else. So you need to be with, you know, other people who, you know, want to work hard and, you know, make something happen too.
Fabulous. Would you be on the road? Would you be traveling? Would you be in person? Would you be remote? What's the
Yeah,
ones there?
definitely remote at this point. I wouldn't mind like 1 or 2 days if I needed, you know, to go in. I moved to the suburbs and made my commute into Boston not so great. But I do miss people. I'm a people person, so I wouldn't mind, you know, the 1 or 2 days. I don't think I'd go, you know, unless it was the perfect opportunity. I don't think I'd, you know, want to go back 5 days in the office. I do love the travel. I don't sit still well, so that always has been, you know, a wonderful part of my job is getting to, you know, travel and, you know, see different parts of the country and, you know, in the world. My baby at 6 months came to London with me on one of my first business trips back when I was back to work. My mother, you know, came with me and babysat him while I was working. So he's already, you know, been across the
Across the pond.
country.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
exactly. But yeah, so I think a little bit of mix of all would be good and nothing, you know, not too much of one, definitely not, you know, 50% more travel, but a good mix.
Great. Well, we wish that for you. We've put it out there.
Yes.
And fingers crossed on a couple of those new opportunities that are presenting themselves. And I love this idea of fail fast, fail forward. And my motto, similar vein, is be strong and wrong. Do it, you know, strong and wrong. Just make a choice and do it. And okay, great, you're wrong. So
absolutely.
Where do you think that shows up in, maybe in this event industry, maybe as a business professional, where, you know, where can this help us more in, is this with, I don't know, it would be a running thing, right? You don't want to fail fast or fail forward because then you're falling on some other people.
I mean, I actually had, you know, I've dropped out on a marathon once before. That was actually Boston. I thought I was a Kenyan and went out at blazing speeds and could not hold that speeds and ended up dying at mile 13 and dropped out. But you know, I failed at that one, but I ran 3 or 4 weeks later because I wanted to get my time for the following year. So it can apply to running, but definitely in events and in marketing, I would say probably any area. You know, too often we deliberate too much on something and you go back and you go forth and then, you know, time runs out. I mean, I think as we all know, and we get into it, like quarters, when you're planning in quarters for things, it can go by very fast. If you spend too much time nitpicking about everything without just starting somewhere, you know, and then going, and being okay with it not being perfect the first time around, but you adapt from that. And especially if the dollars are lower and you're keeping it cost effective for that first time, like it's okay to not have it be 100%, but at least you've got something going that you can work with. And it's not just ideas in a boardroom that get floated around but never get, actualized. And very much it's been in events where, road shows or the smaller events sometimes that are, people think that it's smaller, it's easier, but actually a lot harder sometimes because don't have the bigger, audience. Sometimes you just got to try and timings. Maybe it's not a morning event. It needs to be evening event based on your, your audience. And it's a little bit, tweaking here and there, but you got to start somewhere.
Yeah. I love it. That's awesome. All right. Carrie Furnari, are you ready for our Lightning Express round?
Yes, I'm ready.
You run a gazillion miles. You're scared of my 7th question. Express.
I'm scared of yoga. Okay, if that makes you feel better, yoga scares me.
Yeah, and what? Yes, hot yoga scares me. So yes, okay. Like I'm in here, I'm in a box, and I can't breathe. Okay. All right, no yoga questions in the Lightning Round Express. There are 7 questions and 45 seconds on the clock. There's no clock. Okay, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, here we go. Carrie Furnari, what is your favorite moment in the event process?
Ooh, the final production, seeing it come to light, for sure.
Beautiful. Yes. Who do you consider your mentor?
Ooh, I have 2, but a former colleague of mine who was started as a consultant with a company, but we've stayed connected over the years. Shout out Samantha Stone. She's been awesome and a rock star.
Yay! Shout out Samantha Stone. I love it. All right, question 3. What? I don't even know if this is a thing. What is the best mid-marathon snack?
Ooh, anything that'll stay down. Gatorade or a gel.
Gatorade. Don't they, right? I was gonna say like the gels, right? They give you like those gooey things. Gross.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you do every day? We probably know this. What do you do every day to stay healthy and sane?
Running.
Yes.
Shock.
And yoga? No.
Chocolate. I have a piece of chocolate or some type of cookie every night. I'm a sweet tooth person, so that is how I have to end every day, is with something sweet.
Oh, I love that. And if you weren't talking to me right now, what would you be doing?
I've sent too many applications in on LinkedIn, so I'd probably be watching something on Netflix.
Oh, that is an answer I have not heard on this podcast. The 2 years of doing this podcast. That's amazing. That is amazing. All right. If you were going to write that book that you were talking about earlier, what would the title of your book be?
Shit happens.
Yes.
Can I say that?
Indeed, it does. Absolutely. Yes. Yes,
Okay.
you can. All right. Final question. What is the best way to take care of an event professional?
Yes. Buy them gifts or give her a massage after a big event. If it's like one of those week-long events, give them a gift card to go get a massage.
Oh, I love that. Yes. Well, congratulations. You have lived through the Lightning Express round. Woohoo! All right. Carrie Furnari, currently available for work.
That's right.
Open. What does it say on LinkedIn, right? Open to work, right? That's what it
Into my
says.
resume on bottom.
Yes. Yes. So if they want to get in touch with you or connect with you, where can they find you?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn at CE Page 23, and you can find me there. Connect with me, message me, email me at carrie.e.page23@gmail.com. Yeah, either or, I'm open.
Great. We'll put that in the notes. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for being here today. And this was a pleasure. I love that we got to deep dive into something we don't get to talk about a little bit, which is what do you do when you're not working, which happens to all of us. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Carrie Furnari. Thank you to our audience for listening. Once again, if you like events, if you love events, even if you loathe events, and who does, tell someone about this podcast. Give us 5 stars. Give Carrie Furnari 17 stars for her 17th marathon, which is super exciting. Thank you. This was A pleasure. This was a nice boost to my afternoon. I am not going to go for a run. I will have maybe that piece of chocolate, however. So thank you. Keep speaking, and remember, whatever you're speaking about, to be speaking of events. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Speaking of Events is sponsored by Ovation, the gold standard for professional presence and speaker development training, helping everyone get prepared, get confident, and get Ovation.